Hi, I'm Ashley Goodchild giving you an update for the Perth rental market. So we currently have a 1.2% vacancy rate, but there are other areas in WA that are going as low as 0.5%, which is quite interesting, and that's going quite south of WA. We have the most highest volume and number of rentals currently available in the inner city suburbs, so Perth, East Perth, West Perth. And we currently have 1,000 less properties currently on the market than the same time last year, which is also interesting. Our lease renewals, we are finding that they've stabilised a little bit. We're not getting massive lease renewals anymore in terms of the rent reviews, and they're maintaining around the $10, maximum $20 per week. And we are really seeing people when they apply for properties offering more, when before we sort of saw that competition. We're not seeing that as much anymore. A few people still offering a little bit less, but they're not getting the property. You need to pay the asking rent. I am still finding I've got some investors that are trying to take advantage of the market. So I had one the other day where they were paying $450 a week, the previous tenant, and the owner wanted to put it on the market again for $575 per week. And as a result, they're not getting the inquiries that they're hoping to get. So tenants are still very wary and not willing to overpay for a property. We are definitely seeing more investors buying in Perth, which is really great news, but the investors are not our Perth local investors. They are the Eastern State investors buying up. To give you an example of what they're looking for, they are looking for properties with an 8% yield, and investors are seeing that as their good return, which it is. And a property that one of my investors just bought the other day, they paid $351,000 for it with a rental of $385 per week. So it's really, really good for people that are willing to take the risk and the opportunity to buy really, really well in Perth. Over to Mel in Victoria.
Thanks, Ash. Hi there, guys. Melissa Hickson. I am from Prime Residential and I'm representing Melbourne. So as you guys are all probably aware, we have been in lockdown over the last couple of weeks. So it's nothing that we haven't been through before, or we don't know what to do. So the real estate market at the moment is obviously we can't do face-to-face inspections. So we've literally been leasing properties through our video tours, and obviously a lot of agents in Melbourne have been doing this for the last 18 months. So again, nothing that is really different or changed to us. In terms of, obviously we can't get people through for open homes because we're not doing them. Hopefully with the news today that will hopefully change to at least one-to-one inspections, but for the last couple of weeks we haven't been able to do that. The vacancy rate in the Melbourne inner city is sitting at around 8%, so that's actually a little bit lower than what it was previously. So we've been sitting anywhere more than 10% for the last probably 6 to 12 months. So that means that is good news for Melbourne. Vacancy rate is starting to drop. My core area, which is in the western corridor of Melbourne, we're looking at about a 3.2% vacancy rate. So pretty consistent with where it's been over the last couple of months. So we have been able to lease properties through our videos over the last few weeks actually. So people in Melbourne are becoming more adaptable to leasing on videos, to be honest, and it's actually makes it a lot easier for us as agents to be able to screen through the right people that we're wanting to get into the property as well. So that's a bonus for our industry, I do think. In terms of renewals and rent increases, obviously for our office, obviously we've been working at home, so we're actually getting on top of all of our lease renewals and getting through that process. And we're actually finding that a lot of people are wanting to actually stay, which is great. There have been very minimal properties that are looking at implementing rental increases. So it's pretty consistent across the board in Melbourne that the Melbourne inner city market has substantially dropped. As an example, we have a couple of one bedrooms in the city area. They were renting at around $400 per week. Tenants have given notice to vacate, and we are putting them back on the market anywhere between $300 to $320 per week, just because obviously there's so much stock, there's no students, and that market is really struggling. So look, overall, we're still leasing properties. Inquiry is still there. Properties that are priced right and marketed well are still leasing through lockdown, and we've managed to lease quite a lot of properties on our books, so we've done a really great job. But hopefully we have really good news coming through in the next couple of days for property managers in Melbourne to be able to do inspections again. So I will now hand over to Ash from New South Wales. Thanks, Ash.
Thanks, Mel. Good morning, Ashley Merlo here from the Property CoLab, coming to you from the Northern Beaches in Sydney. So obviously representing the New South Wales today. So specifically when we're referring to Sydney, we've actually seen a decrease of 0.1% vacancy from 2.9 to 2.8 in Sydney Metro. Specifically on the Northern Beaches, the vacancy rate has actually remained unchanged month on month in comparison to last month. So we're currently we've just started week 5 of our restrictions here in New South Wales, Greater Sydney. But what we're actually seeing on the Northern Beaches is the market is still remaining incredibly strong. So we do have a lot of people moving over from the eastern suburbs and lower North Shore. We've also got a lot of people taking advantage of the strong sales market locally, which has seen an influx of people into our local rental market. And we've now got a lot of expats returning from overseas as well. So what we're seeing is, age-old supply and demand. There's quite simply not enough properties on the market, and the supply for properties locally and more tenants looking. With the current restrictions in place, we're not doing open homes, so everything is via private one-on-one viewing. So for all of our properties that we've got on the market, we do a virtual tour of that property prior, so everyone does have the ability to pre-inspect. But throughout the last month, we've leased properties completely virtually, which is really cool, with tenants that were based here relocating from the US whilst their partners are still based in the US, and then also properties through private one-on-one viewings. So just to give you a bit of an example on the level of inquiry locally, we are finding that the 1-bedroom apartments are probably taking anywhere between 7 to 14 days to lease. However, 2-bedroom properties or through to houses are leasing a lot faster. So we had a property on the market last week, which was technically by the letter of the law, a granny flat, 60 square meters. It was a brand new build. In 3 days, we had over 220 inquiries for local tenants looking for property, which was just huge. People at the moment are really looking for that lifestyle location. They're looking for an outdoor area, especially with these continued restrictions. They're really wanting something with that outdoor space and the extra room that gives them the facilities to work from home. So, that particular property was on the market for 72 hours before it was leased, $50 above the asking price. But typically we're finding, even in the current restrictions locally on the Northern Beaches and lower North Shore, properties are leasing anywhere between sort of 4 to 7 days. So still turning them over quite quickly and safely. Rental reviews, we are still seeing rental increases across the board. So that can be anywhere from 4 to 7% depending on the property. But overall, although we are in these restrictions, we are seeing that the market's really quite strong. Obviously it varies from market to market, but overall it is staying quite steady. So hopefully we do start to see some restrictions ease in the future. That would be ideal, but obviously got to make sure everyone is safe as well. So that's about it for us over here in New South Wales. Over to Beck in Brisbane, Queensland.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Beck. I'm from Ray White in Beenleigh. So our vacancy rate at the moment is 0.6%. We have about an average of 14 groups coming through every open home, and our properties are taking about 7 to 10 days to actually lease. Our current leased properties, we're getting on average getting an increase by $10 to $20 on all of our properties. The owners aren't increasing much more than that, and the tenants are happy to stay on. We have a lot of people still moving up from interstate and a lot of investors still at the moment in the market. So it's been quite busy and really good. So over to Tara in regional Queensland.
Thanks, Beck. Tara here from Active Agents in Hervey Bay as part of regional Queensland. Here in Hervey Bay, we're finding that we have an extremely low vacancy rate, and one that we haven't experienced before. We're at that 0.2, 0.4%, even to the point where we're seeing families trying to share homes together. It is quite difficult at the moment if you're looking to relocate to Hervey Bay. We do find that tenants will register with us prior, and doing very similar to what Ashley was talking about, where we have virtual tours on every one of our listings. And as part of that, we present that virtual tour, and tenants are applying based on that before even seeing the property and getting that approval. So it is a very tough market here, but at the same time, we're also seeing some investors start to come back into our marketplace. We've been working with buyers agents out of the area. to help support that, and really encouraged to have those investment purchases again. We've seen over the last 12 months, many of the investors that have been within the Hervey Bay region taking up the opportunity of selling, because it certainly has been a high increase within our marketplace and area. When it comes to lease renewals, we've seen anywhere from leases that are being renewed from that $10 to $20, even $30 a week. However, if there's a listing that's coming back on the market vacant, we have seen situations where a 3-bedroom house has been rented for $350 a week, and then that property has been released for $400, $420. So there is certainly that high demand there, and we have flourished and become a popular location at the top there of the Sunshine Coast for people to come to, seeing a lot of medical. We've had a lot of growth in our medical facilities here, and certainly expansion in the education side with teachers really coming and pushing to the area. So at least 80% of the tenants on our rent roll personally are from out of area. So we've got quite a change of dynamic within our marketplace at the moment of different families coming here, but certainly very exciting for the region. And I'll pass now over to Joe in the Darwin area, Northern Territory. Thanks, Joe.
Hi everyone, Joe here from Now Leasing in Darwin. We've seen a pretty consistent month. This time last month we were in our lockdown as well. We've come out of that quite well. We had a sluggish couple of weeks, but inquiry has certainly picked back up again. We're seeing anywhere between 5 and 30 people through a property inspection. We're still doing those virtual tours as well. There's a lot of people coming from interstate that are getting stuck in lockdowns and having to come into quarantine just to get here. And we are still leasing property sight unseen that way. Still lots of people though moving around in amongst our locals, just looking for that right property fit. We're about 12 months into our growth cycle now, from when the market started to pick up in July last year. So our increases on those relets are certainly, they're leveling out a little bit. Last month we were over 30% on an average increase. We're sort of sitting down to a 19-20% increase on those properties that are coming back onto the market and advertising. Lease renewals are hovering still around the 9 to 15% increase rates. So we're still seeing some good rates, but we do expect that to slow down now that those big increase rates are sort of edging out now that those properties have been leased for a little while with the growth market. Vacancy rates still pretty consistent around the 0.5 to 1% mark. And we're seeing still a lot of people move to Darwin. So it's keeping our stock numbers very, very low, which is obviously still driving up demand, which I don't think is going to really end anytime soon, with so far below normal parity stock levels that it's hard to imagine that much stock coming back onto the market to level it back out again anytime soon. But that's good for investors. Domain.com wrote an article just last week that noted that Darwin had some of the best investment returns in the country, which is pretty normal. We're seeing some big returns for Darwin inner city apartments, and particularly furnished apartments are seeing some really good response rates in the market, as well as houses further out in probably more suburban areas. Other than that, though, it's pretty much business as normal and normal for us now, probably not normal for 12, 18 months ago, but it's become pretty normal to be chaotically busy in a good way.
Jason Wright here from Essential Property Management here in Adelaide. Our market, like everyone else's, has been crazy still. Today is day 7 of our lockdown, and they have announced that we'll be out of lockdown at midnight tonight, which is really exciting. I did see a slowdown in inquiry in the last 7 days. I put 3 properties online last week, and usually over a weekend I'd get about 100 inquiries per property, and I've had about 5 to 8 per property. So I'm hoping that's just a matter of circumstance, which is what Melissa has alluded to in previous sessions. Rents are still high, so a property that I've just put on for 350, I was getting 295 for. One I was getting 384, I've put on for 450, so rents are up by about 20% across the board. We're continuing to put minimum $20 renewals, and in some instances as high as 100. inner city stock is still a little bit slower because of a lack of international students, but otherwise Adelaide continues to boom and it's exciting, and I'm really proud of South Australians that stayed home for a week. It's not that hard, guys.